back to another video, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Jurassic World Dino Trackers Kronosaurus. Let's get started with the review. Let's start with this packaging. So first, we have blue and beta. Down here, the Jurassic World logo, Kronosaurus, Dino Trackers logo, and then the kind of like terrain this animal lives in is shores. Then on the back, it has it performing its action feature, the Jurassic Facts app, the other figures in the wave, and it performing its action feature again. And then on the side, it has a little bit of like kind of an oceany like water design on the side, and then on the other side, it's opened. And let's get this figure out of the box. So first, we just want to cut these wires up here. Okay, got those ones. Then we're going to want to be very careful and try to cut these other ones. Probably should be using scissors instead of the X-Acto knife, but here is the main body of the figure out of the packaging. Then we have to get this tail that's all the way back there, and I'll get that off camera. Okay, now that I got the tail out of the packaging, we do not need this anymore. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is we're going to want to attach the tail to the actual body portion of the figure. Well, that was loud. Okay, I think I got it in. And yeah, here is our Kronosaurus figure. Looks pretty nice. I see you're going to be a very loud figure. Okay, anyways, let's start with the actual review. First, let's start with the detailing. So, one thing to know about this figure is really like textured, so it feels like really bumpy all along the whole body. But anyways, let's start looking at the sculpt. So it has a nicely sculpted head, eye ridges, fenestra, nostril, the eye. Has also good sculpted teeth. Actually has a lot of teeth, especially on the lower jaw. Only interlocking in the front though. Has a little bit of a bumpy texturing on the chin, a shorter neck, and a very bumpy textured body, wrinkly skin folds, and some nicely textured fins, about as textured as the rest of the body. The stomach, on the other hand, is more smooth and covers more just lines, and also a good jaw shape on the lower part of the jaw. As you go down the figure's back, it leads to the tail, and the tail is a little bit more bumpy than the rest of the animal, probably just because it has larger bumps. And has the same texturing on the bottom. And it also has a tail fluke up here, like most pliosaurs most likely had in real life. Next, let's go into the coloring, which this thing actually has nice coloring, going all the way from the tip of the head. It has a little bit of metallic coloring, and then has stripes going down the full body, basically till the tail. The tail is not painted, but it's fine on this figure. Most figures, they don't even go down the stomach all the way, or anywhere on the top. So Mattel pulled that off pretty good. Next, let's look at the inside of the mouth, which is a nice flesh pink color. Has a little tongue. But anyways, if you move the figure like this, both the upper and lower jaw open. But one thing that I do notice on this figure is it also has a second row of teeth, which I don't know why Mattel keeps on giving a second row of teeth to all marine reptiles and only Mosasaurus had it. But it's fine. Let's move on to articulation. First thing, the neck kind of wiggles back and forth. That's not really articulation though. The mouth opens and closes, like I just showed. Along with the fins moving down, up, and then they rotate like this. When they rotate like this, they can also go back. Basically being on a ball joint. I believe the back fins are also on a ball joint, just like the front fins. And then the tail also being able to swivel like almost all Mattel figures. Next, let's move on to the scan code, which this guy has a nice little scan code on top, which if you want to scan this guy to a Jurassic Facts app, here it is. Okay, anyways, back to the review. If you want to, so next let's move on to the action feature, which it's this little switch up here. You're going to move side to side, and it does this. You can kind of make it chomp and then make sound effects. So yeah, I make sound effects like that. Next, let's move on to the size comparison. So we can just put these fins down like this, so we can get it to stand up nice. First, let's start with actually measuring this figure. It is about 1 foot, actually. It's about 12 inches. And that's a pretty good size for a marine reptile. And then also, one more thing I want to mention. In height, this figure is about, when in this position, about 5 at the back. Almost 5 inches. Next, let's compare it to the other Dino Tracker figure I have. The Diabloceratops. Which, compared to Diabloceratops, this is actually much smaller. Surprisingly. They're about the same length, but the Diabloceratops is just a little bit bigger all in all. Also, one thing I just noticed is mine's fin is a little bit curved on the front, but that's okay. But anyways, here it is compared to the Diabloceratops. Next, wait, before we move on, it also has the switch, like the other one. Next, let's compare it to the Jurassic World Dominion Liopluridon. When they said they were making a Kronosaurus, that actually highly shocked me, because they just made Liopluridon recently, just in 2022, and then 2023, they made Kronosaurus. So compared to Kronosaurus, Liopluridon is actually a pretty good size. Let me see. So compared to Kronosaurus, Liopluridon is actually a little bit shorter, which you can't really see that good on camera. But it is a little bit shorter. Because if we hold these both up from till, their Kronosaurus is a bit longer. But on the ground, Kronosaurus is also a bit thicker. So Kronosaurus is a bit larger than Liopluridon figure. I think Kronosaurus in life would have actually been much, much larger than Liopluridon. But here in the figures, they were about the same size. And also, the Kronosaurus weighs more, which is a little bit shocking. Liopluridon's action feature is Kronosaurus's is. Kronosaurus has very short flippers compared to Liopluridon as well. But they both have kind of the tail fluke. Liopluridon having a much smaller one though. And it's nice that Mattel has actually made 2 Pliosaur figures. Another thing is Kronosaurus actually has interlocking teeth, like all Pliosaurs most likely had, unlike Liopluridon that doesn't have interlocking teeth. Next, let's move on to the Plesiosaur figure. The Plesiosaur figure is the small marine reptile. Mattel has only made 1 small marine reptile figure, and it's within this Plesiosaur. And it's about half the length of Kronosaurus. And yeah, that's it compared to Kronosaurus. Next, let's compare it to the Tanystropheus and compare to a human figure. So compared to the Tanystropheus, Kronosaurus is much shorter than it. But that's only because Tanystropheus is long neck. But surprisingly, Tanystropheus is actually probably really long. It's only a little bit shorter than it. The head is the only thing that makes it a bit longer than Tanystropheus on the Kronosaur figure. And then for the human figure, is just slightly longer than its skull. So yeah, Kronosaurus is a decent-sized marine reptile. Last but not least, we have it compared to the Mosasaur figure, which this thing is completely dwarfed by the gigantic Mosasaur figure. This is the biggest marine reptile Mattel has actually made. And it is absolutely huge compared to Kronosaurus. Kronosaurus probably fits in its mouth. Indeed it does. And here it is compared to the Mosasaurus. Yeah, Mosasaurus would completely annihilate this thing. So, for my final thoughts on this figure, what I would like to say about it is, if you see it in stores, I recommend picking it up. This one was a little bit tricky to find, but I eventually was able to find it. So, yeah. And also, just since I did it in the live Pleurodon episode where I mentioned I would probably be getting this figure, the next marine reptiles that I need to find is Elasmosaurus and Nothosaurus, and I think I have all the Mattel marine reptiles, but the Elasmosaurus is not out yet, so that's going to be a while till I'm able to pick that one up. But Nothosaurus should be out, but it's only in a couple stores and it's really tricky to find. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. I give this figure about a 10 out of 10. And there'll be links in the description for it. Goodbye.
Hello there. I'd like to let you guys know that, well, let me show you. We've got merch. So, please buy some merch.